Hi everyone, this is Rhiannon Payne, Marketing Director at Ruby Central, and I am here with Aji Slater, who is a development team lead at thoughtbot and also one of our keynote speakers this year at the final RailsConf. How's it going, Aji?
Pretty good. Hi.
Awesome. I appreciate having you here. Just wanted to take some time to chat a little bit about your journey with Rails and RailsConf and what we can expect from your keynote this year.
Sounds great.
Just to start a little bit with your personal background, how long have you been a Rails developer and how did you get started in the space?
Yeah. So this year actually marks 10 years of me working with Ruby and Ruby on Rails. I'm a career changer. I went to a dev boot camp 10 years ago now, and the framework and language that they taught was Ruby and Ruby on Rails. And I often say that I am a Ruby native speaker. It's the way that I got into programming in a more complex way than basic when I was a kid, kind of things. So, yeah, it's my home base. It's where I feel comfortable and where I like to work.
I love that idea of it being your home base as well and it being your native language. Do you program in any other languages at all, or has it been mostly Ruby and Rails over the past decade?
Yeah, mostly Ruby and Rails. Certainly, there was the couple of years where we were all doing React front ends. I know probably a
Right.
lot of us still are. So there's been a lot of JavaScript and TypeScript kind of mixed in there, but I've been fairly lucky, I think, to still be mostly working in a language that I really adore.
Yeah, and I hear that a lot from people. There's something about it that they feel very connected to. For you, what is it about Ruby or what is it about Rails that really drew you in and made you fall in love with it?
This is the nerdiest thing I've ever said in my life. And I've said a lot of nerdy things, but Ruby is a beautiful language. And I had always heard people say that and thought, that's a little over the top, isn't it? But then I said it and it felt absolutely true. It's because you can write code that looks like prose. It just looks like straightforward communication. And there isn't a lot of indirection around having to understand how the different things work together. And like you can just read the code and know what's going on pretty easily. And the same sort of thing with Rails is very straightforward. It tries to make things simple, readable, understandable, because the kind of problems that we work on can get really complicated really fast. And so if the framework gets out of the way with convention over configuration and all these different things, then you can focus on what's important for the work that you're doing. And I feel a little spoiled sometimes because right now I'm working in a code base that is Rails on the back end, but Angular on the front end. And it just feels nothing is where I want it to be. And everything is just a little bit harder than I expect or that I'm used to. And I spend all day lately thinking, is this how everyone else programs all the time? I don't like this. Every time I go outside of Rails, it's a little like ick.
Yeah. And actually, the bootcamp story too is something that's very familiar and something we hear a lot. And we have a lot of career changers in the community. I wanted to follow up on that too. What was your previous career and what inspired you to switch into software engineering?
Yeah, so I was a vaudevillian. I was a juggler and a clown, toured with Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus for a year, and eventually that just came to be a lot. And I realized that what I was focusing on ended up being making websites for myself and for other performers. And that was where I was gravitating towards enjoying that work more. And so I thought, maybe I'm in the wrong business.
I feel like those two careers seem on the surface level so separate, but is there anything from your time as a vaudevillian that you've taken to your work as an engineer? Is there any overlap there?
I'm sure there's probably a lot of subtle overlap that I'm not really aware of, but I think the one thing that correlates the strongest is in clowning, learning to play and explore and be open and be vulnerable and really connecting with your partners on stage. A lot of similarities to like improv work. And I bring a lot of that attitude with to pairing. And so I'm always trying to be open, be vulnerable, communicate well with my pair, and also try to have fun with it.
Yeah, and I'm sure that comes up a lot in your work. You are a development team lead at thoughtbot. What kind of interesting projects have you been able to work on at thoughtbot, or what has that experience been like for you?
Yeah, so thoughtbot's a consultancy, meaning that we work with a lot of different clients over our kind of tenure at the company. I have been able to work on a few different projects that I've really connected to, a few in the health tech kind of space. That always feels really rewarding because we know we're doing something that's actually contributing to making someone's life easier in potentially a very stressful time. Technology wise, there was a project that we did completely in vanilla Rails as much as we could and used Hotwire and Hotwire native to build a mobile client and everything as well. So that was fulfilling not only from the kind of people and user side, but also from the technology side.
Yeah, and as a team lead, do you still have your hands in the code at all, or are you primarily managing and helping grow the team?
Oh, it's a majority still in the code. The way that it works at Thoughtbot is a little bit less. Managers get removed from the things, but we are supporting a couple of people that are in the same position. We're like coaches, and I like to think of myself as a work therapist sometimes.
Which is also extremely needed, especially when things get stressful. It is so important to have a manager who you can actually talk to honestly and openly. And like you were saying, have fun with when it comes to pairing and mentoring and things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd love to get into RailsConf a little bit. We're heading into our final RailsConf this summer, July 8th through 10th in Philadelphia. And you are our first keynote that we've announced, which is super exciting. And I want to hear from you, like okay, you can share what is your keynote exactly going to be about, and also what inspired that?
Yeah, it's about keynotes, actually. My first RailsConf was in 2016 in Kansas City, and there were two keynotes at that conference that really have stuck with me my entire career. Ever since seeing them, I can't not think about them when anything comes even remotely close to the topics that they covered. I've shared videos to those hundreds of times, it must be at this point. And throughout the years, there have been some really great moments at RailsConfs and at RubyConfs where the keynotes have just landed with something like very of the moment or cut really deep or had a great story that really communicated what they were trying to get across like really well, really tightly with that story. And since so many of my moments of kind of inspiration or moments that have stuck with me have been keynotes. I thought, what if I watched all of them? Just every single keynote at every RailsConf ever. What would I get out of that? Would that be interesting for other people to know? Would there be trends and things that I could see the changes in the community happening through not only how the way people speak about Rails, but also what talks are coming to RailsConf and what is being invited? What is the community interested in that Ruby Central is reflecting with those invitations? And I'm not all the way through yet, but it's coming together. There are definitely some things that I expected that I would see, and there are plenty of things that are coming out of left field that I didn't think would be prominent in connecting talks together.
Is there any example you can share? Anything surprising that you've seen so far?
Yeah, there have been some talks that probably at the time, I can't say because 2009 or whatever, I wasn't at those Rails comps, but that probably seemed very like prescient at the time and spoke about the near future. But it's been really surprising actually how it's been relevant to that near future, but also still relevant to today, but probably in a way that the speaker of that keynote wasn't really intending. So seeing the way that they are looking at the future and just rolling that lens a little bit forward to today has been really surprising that there are so many things that carry over, not just in the main message, but also in what they're not saying or what they're framing their story around that makes it all the way through to today and makes it still really valuable lessons.
Yeah, it really is such a cool concept for a keynote and such a good opportunity with the last RailsConf, obviously, to look back and get this bird's eye view on all of the big things that have happened in the ecosystem. Because basically, most of the big things that have happened within Rails have happened, been announced at, or are reflected in RailsConf every year. And I think that's why this event has been so significant to the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you're going through, going back and watching all of these keynotes from almost 20 years now, is there anything specific that you're looking for or expecting?
I'm really trying to not let any sort of expectations lead these correlations that I'm finding. I think it's super important that if I went in looking for a story and trying to fit the keynotes and the fit the facts to that story, that it's not going to be genuine, that it's not going to be something that is actually there, and it'll be my story to tell rather than RailsConf's story to tell. I'm mostly trying to uncover and be surprised by the connections that happen organically as I'm watching these. I'm doing it mostly chronologically. And so that's been super interesting to see that kind of emerge. It's like an emergent property of the keynotes. Like no one set out to have these messages in there, but as a whole, they come out.
Yeah. And are you using rubyvideo.dev to
Oh,
watch?
I'm not. Actually, most of them are on YouTube. RubyVideo.dev. I got to check that out.
Yeah, no, I'm sure a lot of them are on YouTube. Marco Roth, who's part of the community as well, he's also speaking this year, has been working on rubyvideo.dev as a project, open source, bringing together all videos of talks, meetups, conferences, etc.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And also just if anyone out there has videos of keynotes from the first like 3 or 4 RailsConf, there are not that many videos out there. So
Right.
if you've got some sort of hidden footage in your attic or something, let me know.
Like actually recorded on a VHS tape with a label and a Sharpie written on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, actually, if you want, I can put out a call to the community and ask if anyone has something because I'm sure that would be super valuable as you're putting this together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can let you know where I have the most gaps.
Yeah, happy to help there. I'm curious too, what is it that you are hoping to take away personally from this? And what do you want the audience at RailsConf to take away from your keynote at the end of the day?
Me personally, I just wanted to watch all of the keynotes. Like I said, I've had such a connection and such a strong impact from a lot of these over the years. And after 2016, I've seen most of them in person. So reminding myself of what those takeaways were. And yeah, there's something I think to be gained individually from these. There's a Cliff's Notes thing, which is both good and bad, right? Like you can get a takeaway, but it's not going to have the impact that it would if you watch the real talk. So hopefully, people are coming away with some learnings from those individual moments, some learnings from how they work together as a whole. Then also knowing a little bit if there are some of those that they want to dive into more themselves, right? If there's something in the summary or something in the lesson that they want more granularity on, they'll have a direction to go and look into that keynote. Because hopefully, all of these that I've been watching are publicly available somewhere so that anybody can go and follow up on something that caught their eye.
Absolutely. And I know for a fact we have a lot of videos from previous conferences on our YouTube channel, which is also where we're going to be publishing this video. And rubyvideo.dev, Marco Roth's project, is also an amazing resource. But yeah, we're really excited for your talk. I think it's going to be a really amazing opportunity for folks like you who've been part of the community for so long to reflect back. And also newer Rails devs who haven't been through all of these changes and the evolution of the framework to get this perspective, I think is probably really hard to get if you're newer Rails on why certain things have happened and how certain things have changed that could hopefully inspire them and help them in their careers.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a lot that is coming up that is a little bit of an insight to how some decisions were made or like why parts of the framework are the way that they are. And you're right, that context is, unless you're going to go back and read every pull request, which you're not going to do. It's really hard to get, right? It's like you can use a thing every day, but why is it like that? And because a lot of the new features and things were introduced at each RailsConf, there's a nice little kind of continuity.
And that really is such a reflection of our theme this year, which is the past, present, and future of Rails, understanding that why. So, thank you again for putting that together and working on this amazing keynote that we're all going to see in July. And also just for taking some time here with me to chat and share with the community. And I did have one last question too. Since you've been going to RailsConf since 2016, do you have any favorite memories from past RailsConfs, things that really stand out to you that were really funny or helped in your career in some way?
Yeah, like a micro one and a macro one. RailsConf in Portland, I believe that was 22.
Yeah, that was my first RailsConf.
Nice. There were a few speakers that found each other to hang out with a little bit and spend some time outside of the conference together, which I was one of. And there was one night before the majority of us had our talks the next day where we found a corner of the lobby of the hotel and ran our talks for each of us. It was just this very generous moment for receiving a lot of last minute feedback, doing a one more run through, that sort of thing. And it was just a really great moment of sharing and connecting with these people that have become my conference friends, hashtag Ruby friend, and that sort of thing. And that was a really like singular moment that I really enjoyed. And the sort of macro thing is looking back on the way that I would attend these conferences, at first very focused on technical or specific takeaways to use in work, and the transition to where I am now of really enjoying the hallway track and the conversations and just the community in general, and seeing this sort of arc and thinking back to the all or nothing person I was at each moment along that timeline, and seeing that kind of transition and growth in my own character arc as well.
Yeah, and I did say that was going to be the last question, but I do have one more for you. And I promise this will be the last one. But I think that for many of us, being part of this community has been such a personal journey as well as a professional one. And for you, having been part of this since 2016 and even before that as an engineer, how has Ruby on Rails changed your life?
Wow. It absolutely has. It has not only given me that home base for my career, it has let me change my path in life. It's given me stability in a way that freelancing performing would not have done. I don't think there's an aspect of my life really that Ruby on Rails and the Rails community hasn't touched. Yeah, that's a hard question to answer because it feels really baked into who I've become.
I love that. And it's so good hearing your story. And I'm sure we're going to get to hear a lot more of it in July. And yeah, thank you again, Aji. It's been great chatting with you. And if you want me to send out a call for rare old videos from previous conferences, let me know and we'll do our best.
Will do.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.